welcome back, everyone, here to the SBL. And you know, we here at Mystery Inc., we were given a mystery at the beginning of the year, even, to try and solve. And now at the end of Phase 2, I feel like we can finally, truly say that we've solved it. And the mystery was, what's a chair that you can sit in all day, be comfortable with, it's going to have great back support, and just all around be an amazing chair for you. We found out it was the SMITE Maxnomic chair, hands down. I mean, every other chair we tried, get it out of here. And you see that piece of junk back there? It's nothing more than a prop holder at this point, because this chair is just so much better, echelons above the rest. And you too can get yourselves a SMITE Maxnomic chair. You go to needforseat.com, use code SMITEMAX. You also get an exclusive ward. If you needed to solve a mystery of where your opponents were, wards are the way to do that. Now you can do that with style. Go ahead and get yourselves a chair, sit in comfort, and play, I guess, like a god, maybe more like a human in a god's chair, realistically. Either way, you'll still look good while you're doing it. And I'm here with none other than Shaggy joining me. It's Mifflin over there that's going to be hanging out for Sanguine versus Obey. Mifflin, we already know you think Obey's going to find this one 2-0, and at this point, I think all of the standings are locked. This is maybe more for bragging rights. I mean, if Obey come in and kind of 2-0, that would be pretty hot at the very end of the phase, but ultimately, because of the loss there for Radiant, Sanguine, even if they lose, they have the head-to-head, so they will maintain third. If they win, they're just more solidly third, so they're happy sitting right where they are.
Yeah, Sanguine has no risk of falling down here. And you know what, Gore? You're right. I do think it's going to be an Obey 2-0 because it's never too late for a sick redemption arc, all right? And Obey certainly primed for one. I mean, Sino's been looking pretty good, adding a couple more gods to his repertoire as the weeks have been ticking along. Osiris now closely associated with this guy. He can go back to Assassins at some point. I mean, he said at the beginning of the year that he would. We haven't really got the chance to see it, though.
Well, maybe today will be the day. Maybe we'll just see more Osiris Jungle. Either way, I think we'll be perfectly fine with it. The only note I have is that Obey, I mean, at this point, I'd say they really need a win. If they lose this set, then they are tied with E-United for the longest loss streaks that we've had this year. E-United, I want to say, kind of infamously went 0-10 at the beginning of this phase. Obey right now are 9 losses in a row here, and so this is their chance to change it. And honestly, one of the consistencies we've seen from them, even in losing games, has been from the duo lane over there with Wowie.
Yeah, Wowie's been looking pretty good. He's never really going to be one to lose you a game. He's certainly been able to hold his own in lane. I think he's got a pretty diverse god pool as well, be it the Jingwei, hold on as I adjust my beard, or the On Her, Rom, Cupid. He's playing the top of the meta picks, and I think it's really working out for his team. But if it's through the duo lane, I think we got to give shout-outs to the most improved player in the league throughout the duration of this year. Inbound has been really stepping up for his team.
And it's one of those things, like, I'm looking at these highlights, and you see one consistency. At least I see one consistently comes through. Wowie, yeah, he's picking up a lot of kills and making some good plays, but I always see Inbound's name somewhere on the screen, setting him up, just to make his life a little bit easier. I think this team, as a duo lane, has come together very well, considering what we saw at the beginning. You know, we were looking at it, a couple of rookies that joined the league this year, and the 408 and Inbound, and we got to see Jake maybe get his feet under him a little bit faster. But you have to argue that then the most improved goes hands down over to Inbound because of what we've seen. His Emoja looked phenomenal the other day, even though they, again, resulted in some losses. So a lot of work put in from that duo lane and a lot of effort that is going to be needed here today, Mifflin, because Obey are going up against Sanguine. And let me tell you, that's not easy to do. Not a lot of teams can regularly take them down. They were first in Phase 1. They've done well here in Phase 2 to end up in third. And now you're in this position, especially when we're looking at the duo lane, that you have to take on Rongyu and Metroid, which is not going to be easy.
Yeah, Metroid is such an interesting player. It's hard to lock down exactly how he wants to play. Some weeks, we get to see this aggressive style, reminiscent of Season 3 Zapman, where he's dashing in on every single wave. Some weeks, he goes back to the beginning of Phase 1 Sanguine, where Metroid is just waiting for the late game so he can rotate out. But he's always going to be the presence on his team. You know, once he does show up for his squad, he's going to be making impact plays, be it through stealing these objectives, or finding kills in the jungle, or doing whatever his team needs at the time. I think his greatest strength really is his versatility.
A lot of expanded god pools as well. I mean, a lot of on her highlights in here that I think is, again, maybe a more recent flavor a lot of people in the league had picked up, since he got some buffs relatively recently as well, makes him a little bit easier. But there's the tried and true. I was wondering if we'd get to see it. The Jingwei that comes through. Heimdall, like you said, there's such a versatile god pool, I think, that comes through here. Match that up with Rongyu, as we had mentioned Bobby last time, and I think this duo lane becomes immensely difficult to deal with just in general. It'll be fun to watch what Sanguine are going to try to bring out today, and we got to sit down and talk with them a little bit, and we've been talking so much about the duo lane. It all is centered over there. It is Metroid that we have sitting around for an interview.
Well, I'm here with Metroid Hunter for Sanguine. And Metroid, this is kind of an up and down phase for you guys, but you're right back up in the top 4, I think, where you all certainly belong. What were some of the adjustments you guys were making to try and get a bit more consistent with your wins?
Well, since we were pretty much a team in a late game situation and stuff, we wanted to like perform better our early game, like improve it, so that's what we did. But you know, like looking at Ghost, for example, they do play really good the early game, so it's kind of hard to just like be exactly like them in just a short period of time. So I think there are a lot of things we have to improve still, and it's gonna be like really cool, really exciting for Worlds, for example. So yeah, that's what we're looking for right now.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you all play there as well, and I think Rongyu's Herc in the early game is pretty good. You guys play Obey today, and you're actually 2-0 against them throughout the phase, so you guys have been handling it so far. Anything that you're looking to execute specifically to make sure it's a 3-0 against them? Because they're one of those scary teams that can always look good on the day.
Yeah, I mean, I said it like before, Obey has found their identity. Sometimes they just play lights out, and sometimes they have like bad days. I think all of us have the same bad day sometimes. So if we catch them in a good day, it's gonna be a hard game. But of course, it's always like exciting to think that probably they're gonna come up with something new, or probably they're gonna come up with a new warrior in the jungler, for example. So yeah. It's gonna be rough, but I hope we got that 2-0.
You're right, though. It's hard to know what Obey are going to be playing. You guys have looked better, like I said, these last few weeks, but you have still struggled up against Ghost and Space Station specifically, the top 2 teams. Looking towards playoffs, what do you think you all need to do better against those teams specifically? I know you mentioned the early game before.
Yeah, so starting with the early game, I will say focus more on the games, because sometimes we kind of get overhyped. So I think that's one of the main reasons. Sometimes we just lose our heads in the middle of the team fight, but it's something good too, because if you build the momentum, you can like have a really good game from that point. So I will say that right now.
Hey, only bring that energy in a little bit. That's one of my favorite reasons to watch you guys. You're such an exciting team. Thanks for talking to me here, Metroid. Good luck in this set. I expect it to be a good one.
Awesome, thank you.
As Finch had mentioned, there's only one set right now that's standing between Sanguine and focusing on the playoffs, which, by the way, for people who are wondering, and we'll say this again throughout the next couple of days, November 13th through 15th, so a little bit of a break once the phase ends before they have to come back, but again, only a little bit of a break before they have to play. And this is one where I think if you're Obey, you're just looking for something clean, Mifflin, and if you're Sanguine, you're just looking for maybe to have a little bit of fun, but also maybe just for a clean win, much like Ghost just had, to find themselves a nice exit here in Phase 2.
Look, I've played a lot of games up against the Sanguine boys because they like to queue SMITE casuals as a 5-stack
Always.
at 3 a.m. on any given day, and I've never seen them have an ounce of chill in their bodies. I'm sure they're coming out here with blood in their eyes. They want this dub up against Obey, whereas I think Obey's in a slightly different position. I think they really shouldn't be showing anything new in this week in particular because they're out of contention for playoffs. They should keep their eyes on Worlds, and if that's the case, why show off anything you've been working on in a week that really doesn't have too much impact for you?
Well, there's, again, a lot, I think, that can come into this one. What better way to find out what it's going to be other than to go into picks and bans here in game number 1? I don't even know if there's pressure mounting. I guess for Obey, realistically, the pressure is mounting that you don't want to end on a loss. You've had a very back and forth phase, right? Things have gone simultaneously well and not so much for you, depending on the day. And so we know they're capable. We know that their at least first 15 minutes of any given game can be solid. It's just expanding that to a couple of wins here would be an awesome way for them to finish off the phase. Of course, Sanguine thinking pretty much the exact same thing, and honestly, beating Sanguine for 15 minutes doesn't really amount to anything at the end of the day. They prefer the 25 plus.
Yeah, you gotta beat Sanguine in the first 15 minutes. No beating, no winning. You need to win full stop, because if Sanguine makes their way into the late game, they're gonna be an absolute threat. But already, we're seeing some target bans coming through. King Arthur and Hebo targeting out some of Sanguine's best picks. Even Panatom recently has been able to play that Hebo pick. But Sanguine, in a interesting pivot, I heard it from you there, Gore, this Athena ban, that's new.
Yeah, it's something, I guess we saw Obey running. I think Ducky was playing it in the solo lane. And maybe if I go back in time and I look it up, maybe that was then against Sanguine, but I remember he had a couple of good games there. And alongside this Cupid and this Nemesis, definitely feels Obey targeted, although maybe not the #1 pick. We had mentioned it on Friday. We got to talk maybe about the bad games it brought when it was picked then, but now we can talk about the good games we saw much more recently. Inbound on this Yemoja will make an impact, I think, this game.
And this is huge for Obey, because a lot of teams in the past had been just allowing Yemoja through. Seems like Sanguine still doing that, and Obey hadn't been willing to take this pick. But now that we know that Inbound is capable of playing it at a high level, being this impact player on it, all of a sudden it should, at least moving into Worlds for Obey, absorb one of those bans. You can't allow Yemoja through when someone's adept at playing it, because in my eyes, still one of the best guys in the game, if not through multiple forms of CC, but through the walls, as well as the out-of-combat sustain from the heals. Yemoja is just so strong.
You can never underestimate a well-placed Riptide, which I think is what comes through, right? You set up River's Rebuke, you have a little pathway that maybe someone can run away, and you just, boop, nope, you're not getting out of there. Not only you're not getting out of there, now you're back in the tank with the Sharks. It gets even worse for you as it comes through. And I was going to say who better than to walk through walls, except he's friendly here, so it doesn't necessarily matter. But Osiris being able to bring that in. And you had mentioned it and kind of touched on it, but for Sino, that might just be a jungler, not necessarily going to Ducky the way we would expect it, and maybe some other teams.
Yeah, I think we could fully expect this Osiris going to the jungle. Sino loves playing this pick. He loves being the initiator for his team, which is why he really does lean more so towards this warrior role. We see him on gods like Nike, like Osiris, so he can be the first one in and the last one out for his squad. And I think this opens up Ducky to kind of expand his god pool more so towards that assassin pool, or even towards the Athena that we've seen in the past, having to make up for some of that lack of CC coming from your jungle.
Well, Horus locked in there. Kind of, I want to say, wrong use special that comes through. Very prominent in Phase 1. Very, very nice to Sanguine throughout Phase 1. And then took a backseat, back burner for a lot of this phase. He's come out every now and then, but finally we get to see it. And potentially, well, not potentially, the last set for Sanguine until the playoffs there in a few weeks. So this is so far looking like good setup. I think taking the Ra away is the one that's most interesting. Poseidon as well as Aphrodite band. It is definitely some hits here for Wolfie, although lately we've been seeing him pick up Isis more than anything.
We have, and I'm hoping we don't have to today. I don't want Wolfie to pigeonhole himself into that early game objective role, because he's been getting manhandled ever so slightly inside of these team fights on that Isis pick, which is why I think Sang would decide to leave that one open. As they strip away the Ra, they take away some other of these mid lane picks, almost forcing Wolfie into taking it for himself, almost initiating that you have to go for these early game objectives. And then we see that Sanguine on their own end are taking these gods that are very strong. If Obey do decide to group up on the objectives, Rom can steal away, or even Thor can find a multi-man dunk, also another targeted pick, making sure that Ducky can't get comfortable on that Thor in the solo.
And this feels really solid for Panatom as well. Thor, another one that was kind of the special pickups. We had even mentioned it at one point. Sanguine were playing what was meta for a long time. Panatom, Thor, it was something that went hand in hand, and then for a while they shied away from it. But this Thor has always been very nice to him. Sometimes it's not been as forgiving, so we'll have to see which Panatom shows up today, I think, to see what performance we're going to get. But Thoth, the mana locked in for Obey. I mean, the Thoth alone, I think, does give them a lot of merit. I actually really like their comp coming into this.
It's a very strong obey comp, and it makes sense exactly what they're going to be looking for. It's kind of pick-centric. Yamoja finds a stun, you have Thoth following up with the ultimate. Osiris can set up for your ultimate as well, making their 3v3 very strong, not only with poke, but also the ability to finish off kills. And then you have Jingwei and Vamana, both gods that are going to be very comfortable being left alone in their respective lanes, on islands, essentially. Vamana not really going to get sold out almost ever, CC immunity and sustain in the kit, and Jingwei being the safest hunter in the game. It looks to me like Obey are really focused on the 3v3.
Well, Nike's going to round out Sanguine's lineup here. Just as much as this feels like a good Obey lineup and composition, it also feels like a good Sanguine lineup and composition. The Ra is maybe the one that's out of there, but you can't catch me counting Shinto out of anything. I'll give him whatever he wants, and it'll look good. Either way, we're going down to our very own Fred and Scooby for the cast.
Thank you, Daphne. Thank you, Shaggy. It is indeed Fred, and Scooby is here with me. Doug, of course, working the camera, and Scooby, this is a big one for both of these two teams. Obey Alliance, this is our final look at them as well as Sanguine for the phase. You in chat make sure to let us know which way you're leaning here on this one. Obviously, neither of these teams really anything to gain or lose on this one, so these are ever so important for maybe trying out new things or ironing out maybe some issues you see with your squad before moving into playoffs and into Worlds and all that in a couple of months.
Definitely an opportunity to smooth things out as you get towards the end of the phase. And look, I mean, it's been a long phase for all of these teams. They want to be able to end on a win. It's much better to go out with a good taste in your mouth rather than a bitter one. So I think that Sanguine coming in, I mean, they coming into this probably expected to need to win, but with Ghost taking care of business up against Radiance in our set just before this, Sanguine is now your third seed. Doesn't mean they didn't come in with a game plan to win up against Obey here and secure it themselves.
Yeah, Sanguine team, after some mid-phase stumbles, has started to find their footing a little bit better. Rongyu, I think, has gotten back to playing some really good support. Yarkor, I think, has had a phenomenal back end of the phase here as well, picking up the Nike pick here out of the solo lane, a pick that we've started to see a little bit more of here as of late, going up against Ducky on the Vamana, another pick that has started to see a little bit of rise.
Ducky played this pick recently and looked awfully good on it, didn't he? I mean, this is a pick that maybe we could see him continue to use going into playoffs. I think that Vamana's in a weird spot where healers are already kind of in the meta, so everyone is used to and okay with building these anti-heal items. That makes him a little bit worse inherently, but still not bad, especially when you're not overlapping him with a lot of healing on your side. You have a little bit here because of the Emoja. Sanguine was already going to be able to anti-heal for her, so that doesn't feel great. But overall, I still think he's a good god that's worth playing, and especially when gods like Ra are in the meta, how does Ra ever get away from a Vamana?
Fair enough, and you know, I look at what Sanguine have. That's a fantastic question to sort of bring up, if this Vamana is just going to be able to free run down some of the back line. Sino close by over here in solo, but Yarkor is going to play safe enough, stay alive there. I like that you bring up the Emoja, because there are some teams that, you know, I don't know if it's harsh is the right word, but we've definitely brought up the need to bring Emoja into some of your games. And I like now getting a chance to really look at inbound on this Emoja and get kind of a sense of where he stands. Right now it could be first blood, just a couple more autos from Wowie's all that's needed, but there's healing there from Rongyu as well. The body blocks separating the two hunters, but inbound pulling off to the left-hand side. Could it get turned around now? Wowie gets stuck down. Metroid gets first blood. Wowie finally finishes off the kill. Both supports, the last two alive.
Really, really impressive turnaround there from Sanguine, and a good all-in from Obey. They really had a good handle on the situation in that lane. I love the aggressiveness from them. It's just that I think inbound shell was premature. He got dashed on by Rongyu and full comboed, and he shelled just to kind of keep his own health bar up. If he still has that, as they're continuing that chase, as soon as Metroid turns, think that he could just pop the shell and Wowie stays up and healthy, and that should have been first blood for Obey. But either way, well played, but really by both ends.
It was fun to watch. If nothing, the small advantage goes over to Sanguine because of the extra bit of first blood gold there. Now Panatom has reached level 5. Oh, this could get tough here. No beads for Wowie. Panatom up to the sky. Inbound. Backing away. Will the stun connect? It will this time. The follow-up is there from Wrongyou, and there is just way too much from Sanguine. I love that rotation from Panatom immediately upon re-entering the lane. I guess Inbound never had to leave. But now another kill over to Metroid Sanguine.
I was told I had to say this at some point today, but that was definitely going to be a rut row sort of situation from the beginning. I mean, level 5 Thor, no beads for Inbound, doesn't have them, beads down for Wowie. As long as Panatom doesn't just whiff his ult straight out of the window, that one is a guaranteed second kill for Sanguine. And really, Obey should be pretty thankful that Panatom was either out of range or just wanted to take the guaranteed kill onto Inbound and didn't elect to hit Wowie.
So is that it? I mean, you punch the rut row card and now you're done? Is that the way we're looking at this now? You don't have to use it anymore today?
Here's the way it works, Dave. Did I say rut row while wearing
Yes.
this Scooby-Doo costume? Yes
You
or
did.
no?
You did.
Okay, then we're
All right,
good
so
here.
one
Any other
was
questions?
one was the metric. All right, I was just making sure that one was the tally we were going for there, and we reached it. So definitely nothing incorrect there. Ducky goes searching for a blue buff. Sino in behind as well. Some action in the mid lane. A River's Rebuke is just sort of walked away from by Shinto. Shinto did have to use his beads there. Obey Alliance, though, really looking for this blue buff invade. Yarkor will jump in, but it's a blink right back in from Sino now. The double stun from Panatom does some serious work. Yarkor drops the Sentinel of Zeus, but Wolfie is rotated in, forces Obey Alliance, but nice shot from the backline from Shinto. Will pull back one kill. Wrongyou on his rotation. Might set up for another here. The Riptide sends Inbound running. The range damage just a bit shy. You only need one or two more autos. Inbound waltzing away, but not fast enough, and Shinto will grab another.
Really great ultimate from Wrongyou. Got Inbound in it on the back end. Ended up hitting Wolfie with that updraft. I don't even know if it was intentional to catch both of them, but to get a two-man knockup with Horus 1 is nearly unheard of. That is not a particularly large ability. But not only did he get it, but he got the beads from Wolfie at the exact same time. So now Panatom has another pretty easy gank lined up if he can just find a way to dunk Wolfie without him realizing.
And what an interesting battle it is anytime we get to see the Ra and the Thoth going toe-to-toe with one another. I mean, obviously very similar mindsets, and maybe what Thoth lacks in some sustain. He maybe has a little extra mobility in his kit, but it's kind of a fun meta in a way when you get these, I mean, for us maybe as mid laners, where you get to just sit back and watch these two mid laners just slam snipes at the other team, and whoever hits them better will certainly help out his team more. But remember, it started out as like an Obey mindset with the Ra, really, and everyone has seemed to kind of start adopting not only the Ra, but the Thoth as well.
Ra did receive some buffs after Obey had already been playing it, and some pretty big ones at that. But you're right, it was Obey that really identified that this character was probably worth playing before his buffs, and after he becomes, for my money, probably the strongest mage in the game right now. He just has so much survivability because of his movement speed and those protections he gets from his heal.
Wrongyou has to use his ult to escape here. Final Judgment was charged up. Searing Pain right back through from Shinto as well. Down comes Panatom. Look at the damage now from Sanguine. Panatom, big play here in this fight. 2 for 2, though. Both teams losing a mid laner, and then jungle on one side, support on the other. Might be all we have here in this fight. Ducky will be able to retreat. Panatom maybe, though, able to cut him off. Instead, looking like a blue buff invade.
Man, what an ultimate from Inbound. That was perfect. Set it up with the Riptide, then locked in Shinto. Doesn't have that mobility that someone like Thoth has, though I think that would have caught a Thoth in that exact same point. Only problem is that then Obey go, oh man, nice ult, let's all high five in the middle of it. They group up for a gigantic Thor dunk from Panatom, and we already covered that Wolfie is dead to rights as soon as that ultimate finds home, but I don't know that Sino necessarily needed to be added into that list. Can take the Osiris out of solo lane, but can't take the solo lane out of Osiris. That was a legally binding up-down out of Sino.
The rotation from Yarkor, maybe it's just in-lane trading and somewhat what we should expect from a Nike. I mean, almost tripling up what Ducky has. I mean, definitely doubling up damage-wise. 6,200 for this Nike. Able to control a lot of what Obey are looking to do as far as engage. Still haven't seen quite a big opening for Ducky yet to really make use of that Colossal Fury, but Aggro, that window could be closing. It's already a 2-level lead for Yarkor with a lot of the pressure that he's been able to build up.
There's a big experience lead here for Sanguine across a couple different roles. It isn't just for Yarkor in that solo lane. Panatom is up probably a full level over Sino, and Shinto about the same over Wolfie. Not exactly an ideal position, especially whenever Sanguine has so much mobility in order to get to these fights, at least with Panatom having that ultimate.
Ooh. Metroid will trade out his ult for that of Inbounds. Rongyu is going to join the party as well, but his ult will not reach the backline of Obey. Look, I like what I've seen from Inbounds Yamoja up to this point. I admire the engage right there. Forces Metroid into his ult. Rongyu has to ult over as well. You know, I think all check marks up to this point for what we wanted to see here out of this pick. Potential lockdown, though, onto Netroid. Stun doesn't connect this time, but it does the second time around, and then Inbound will Riptide himself away. Wowie, he's dashed back into the fight here. Netroid, he's got the level lead, but it's the damage from Wowie up and over, and then another stun from Inbound here. Wowie with the knock-up from range. Netroid trades out one. Rongyu will look no further. Hunter for support. Maybe Obey Alliance come out ahead as the fight continues.
Shinto has to beat Saito all over him with that blink in, and Ducky has made his way over as well. Panatom double dunk, but Shinto not ready to pull the trigger. Probably could have gotten some good damage off, but don't think they could have killed Sino. He was in full passive mode, which means he just gets an absolute metric ton of free mitigation. 16% physical damage mitigation, 8% magical damage mitigation, just for being ghostly, just for being Osiris.
That's spooky,
I suppose. Man. That's pretty good, I would say. So maybe that's why Sanguine would decide not to all in.
Yeah, it's on brand for today. It's spooky. He's ghostly. I mean, look, Obey Alliance are figuring things out here, though. Still 1,000 gold behind or so where Sanguine is at. Now Inbound on a bit of a solo mission here over by the red buff of Sanguine. A blue buff invade attempted by Ducky, but Panatom right there with the Yarkor. Ducky will be able to walk out of that one. Obey Alliance start up the Gold Fury here. There's a numbers advantage. Obey Alliance take down the Gold Fury as well. Rongyu into play, but look at Inbound. He has separated out this fight, and I think that'll escort Obey Alliance away from the objective safely.
Easily done for Obey. Despite a couple of XP disadvantages, they found their way to get some objectives and group up efficiently. Surprised that Ducky was willing to make that long rotation over to left, and knowing that he was already down, and that has widened the gap a little bit in solo in Yarkor's favor. But overall, I got to give a lot of credit to Obey. They're playing with good tempo. Their pacing so far in this game has been really good. Sino blinking in, getting beads, you know, not scared to be the aggressor despite being down a little bit on a pick that really doesn't do that well while behind. Just like I like Obey's mentality. They aren't scared to take these engagements, and that's a good sign.
Well, I think smart there as well. I mean, a lot of what you could consider a small lead for Obey is on the left-hand side of the map. Effectively from mid on over, Sanguine still feeling comfortable, so definitely makes some sense that the Gold Fury gets looked at. Rongyu dashes in, but Inbound will send him right back in the other direction. Yarkor is rotated over here as well, but he'll make his way back on over to solo. Nothing but the Pyromancer to really look at here. So the teams will return to farming, and maybe an invade being looked at by Inbound as well.
Tell you, look, Inbound isn't, you know, doing the Mike or Aurora or Rongyu level stuff quite yet for me, but he is looking really, really solid on this Yamoja pick. And as I said when they were playing it yesterday, if he can prove that this is a real threat for enemy teams going into playoffs, that's going to be a big boon for Obey come picks and bans time. Color me impressed. I like the way he's playing.
Agreed. I'm with you here, Aggro. There's a fight, though, brewing over by the blue buff. Inbound on his own this time, and Won't be enough damage just yet. Inbound stays alive. Shinto off the mark with his ultimate, but Wolfie is not. Sino nearly gets him on the fadeaway. Wrong, finally finishes off the kill onto Inbound. Sanguine get the one. Metroid is over in mid lane as well. He has some snipes. Should the damage from mid be enough? He's used his ultimate though, so now on the back end it's going to have to be re-engage from the rest of Sanguine. Ducky is stunned down. Sino, the same can be said for him. Netroid's all on his own. He trades out 1-for-1 with Sino, and Sanguine will pull back on the back end.
Man, Netroid is putting the pedal to the metal. Breaks her off the rails here for the Sanguine ADC. He is hard flanking as Rom in that team fight. Probably not the best spot for him to be in. They had him up. This would be a very easy tower. Looks like it will be all the same, so I suppose no harm, no foul in that regard. But that's kind of on us for what happened to Inbound there. We're talking him up, ends up overextending, gets picked. He locked in Shinto, but without any sort of potential follow-up coming, it really wasn't going to be a good ultimate, no matter how well he trapped the Ra, which he did, but not really going to amount to much. Wolfie's damage, clearly though, coming through already, nearly put Shinto down from a little bit over 50% HP.
Can we go back to Yarkor for a second? I don't know, what is that on his... I mean, maybe
what
it
is
is...
that? I don't even know.
It probably is... It's embarrassing in some capacity that I'm not sure what it is. Like a Naruto headband or something like that. Look,
I didn't see it. I can... Okay, well I can tell. Yeah, okay, that is a Naruto headband.
Okay,
Dave,
look,
can I tell you right now?
Yeah, baby, we're hitting.
No,
hitting.
because you didn't get it.
No, I did. What do you mean? My first and only guess was a Naruto headband. What do you mean?
Yes, Dave. It's because you say Naruto. That makes you sound like a 55-year-old soccer mom saying Pokemans. Okay.
I'm dressed up like a 55-year-old soccer mom today. I'm playing the part. What do you? It's
no,
obviously.
Dave, this is look, you can try and I'm pulling back the curtain for the viewers. I would bet the house that you say Naruto every time you're talking about that show.
You're right,
okay?
I do.
Naruto. All right, it's not that hard. You got it.
Yeah, right. Literally what I said. Whatever. Pyromancer being
sure,
looked at by Obey. And Obey will take the Pyro. Wrong, you looking for an engage on the Inbound on the back end. That's how it's been more times than not this game. The engage has been Inbound on his own in the front, looking for some sort of follow-up from the rest of his team. You know, I look at his build as well. I mean, Lotus Crown, we see that on the Ra plenty. Makes some sense there. Obviously, with the healing that Inbound's able to do, obviously it's an item that'll synergize with the Umoja kit. But do you think he's sacrificing anything going with the Lotus Crown this early?
No, I think Lotus Crown on Umoja is phenomenal. I mean, you get a shield from whenever you hit him with the 2. Not only do they get healed, now they get a shield, now they get prots on top of that. I think that this pickup is really, really good for him. And so far, it's not like what we saw from Inbound earlier on in the season on the Umoja. He's not way overcapped on CDR for now, at least.
Oh my, Obey Alliance, they just do these Furies way too fast. Sanguine were close by, but not nearly in range or fast enough to really have anything to say about it. Ducky was there just in case a fight broke out. But with that Fury, Obey Alliance now pull themselves back to even, at least a couple hundred gold in the lead. Sino getting aggressive though onto Yarkor here in the mid, and Yarkor will now leap into the backline. Watch out for Thor. Panatom dunks down. Wolfie will use the Aegis. But the double tap gets it done. Panatom hits Wolfie from range. Now the disarm being looked at. Shinto just wide on his snipe here. Riptide on back from Inbound. The Ra has been left out of this fight outside of some damage. A little bit of healing as well. Yarkor locked in by the River's Rebuke, and Ducky will benefit to the tune of a kill. Inbound still in the backline, pouring out healing, keeping Ducky alive. Looks like Sanguine are actually the ones who want to leave.
Great Riptide, no heal for you, but Panatom says he doesn't need it. Hammers forward because here comes Flank Rom to the rescue again. And again, Netroid trades out 1-for-1.
Well, he gets one again on the back end. All right, look. I guess if you're getting 1-for-1, you're happy with it. If it's your goal, Shinto will get Ducky here as well. I mean, that is wild on all accounts, but the big number is now that Sanguine have been able to pull what literally was an even gold lead at the beginning of that fight to about 2,000 in their advantage. And you gotta wonder if it would just be worse if Netroid wasn't constantly walking back in through the backline, but if nothing else, he's gotten himself a couple kills.
Dude, put this man on set ADC with this positioning, it's lights out. I mean, come on. How are you going to compete with him if he's fighting these routes into the backline? It's just on the wrong type of god. But again, it's just Sanguine really initiating and using their CC really effectively. How about the game Panatom is having, man? He has looked so good on this Thor, except for whatever he tried to hammer and didn't pick up a speed buff in time. Besides that little mechanical misplay that we just... Dude, my caster's curse today is strong. Isn't it a full moon or something like that?
It might be,
Maybe
actually.
We haven't done a test quite yet on
waxing
how
or
the
waning?
full moon interacts with the caster's curse, but circumstantial evidence so far points to it strengthening the case. Either way, I'm going to keep gushing about Panatom in this one so far. 2-0 and 6, got both of Wolfie's relics in that fight, and still had the free hand hammer to kill him after the fact. Wouldn't be surprised to see Sanguine try and group up and abuse, the very least, that Aegis cooldown, if not both, the Aegis and the beads.
It is a blue moon. Oh, it is a full moon today. It's also a blue moon. I don't know what a blue moon... Does that mean it's brand new? Maybe a blue moon means it's a new moon or something like that. I don't know exactly, but you're right. It's a full moon today, so that probably plays something into it here. And unfortunately, Obey Alliance are the ones who are not benefiting because of it. The Fury's still 2 minutes away from respawning. Obey Alliance have cleanly gotten both of those. Sanguine just starting to position themselves around this Fire Giant pit 20 minutes in, about when you could expect teams maybe to start looking for it. Metroid, despite having died 4 times, 1 level ahead of Wowie, and definitely strong enough to assist his team in taking down some of these objectives. But Obey Alliance smart enough not to walk too far forward, and everyone's safe and sound for the time being, but watch out for Inbound on a bit of a flanking mission all on his own.
Rongyu's got to be careful. He's kind of caught in enemy territory. He's got Yarkor to jump to if necessary, but it looks like the team's coming to support him.
Look at the CC chain there. Double knock-up, double stun. Panatom looking to dunk on down, and he does so. Doesn't get the stun, but does get the kill onto Wowie. There are some snipes from Metroid, this time safely from the backline, so the Sanguine Hunter will fully be able to participate in this fight. Panatom trying to cut off Inbound, who's used the River's Rebuke. And Sanguine will look for no more kills and instead turn back towards the FG.
No snipe available for Shinto, and Wolfie has final judgment, so someone has got to keep Wolfie out of this pit. Looks like it's Yarkor's job.
And Yarkor is doing more than that, might even get the kill here. He wants to tower dive. Final judgment takes a tick of shielding away, and Wolfie will end up falling. Sanguine look free and clear to take down this Fire Giant. This is a 2 versus 3 split, by the way. Yarkor has already gotten 1, might get even worse here for Obey Alliance if they continue to fight. Panatom snags the stun, then there's Rongu for the follow-up as well. How many fadeaway hammers have we seen from this guy this game? Just waiting for those cooldowns. The Riptide will keep Inbound alive. Big trades, big Fire Giant for Sanguine.
Looking like Dirk Nowitzki, that little mid-range fadeaway, impossible to stop. That's been Panatom so far in this one. And Sanguine looking pretty impossible to stop between the Fire Giant regen and, of course, that regen from the raw heals. Right side Phoenix toast. No chance that Obey can defend that. And now Sanguine just gets to strip the jungle on their way out. Man, Yarkor is just making infinite space in these fights, though, isn't he? I mean, Wolfie has final judgment. Those are the moments as a mage where you go, okay, you know, I've got to step up and make a play. But mages are so OP, right, Dave? I mean, he did so much damage to Yarkor underneath that tier 2 tower, which is supposed to, again, help Wolfie in that moment. Just so many options shield away to get away. Yeah, oh, that was huge.
Yeah, some of that shield was missing afterwards. Shinto snipes out a little bit of damage onto Wowie through the wall. It's another double stun for Panatom. This guy has not missed many times at all this game. A double kill for Metroid, 3 down for Obey Alliance. We are 23 minutes into this game, 5 stack with the FG, and Sanguine will roll down the mid lane.
Man, that is just too easy for the boys. They wanted to reset, Obey. You should have let them back and spend the gold, because now it looks like they won't even get the chance. Mid-Phoenix just kind of the scenic route on the way to the Titan here for Sanguine.
Yeah, Sanguine are going to walk this one in. Frenzy popped, trying to keep Sanguine at bay, but Ducky's going to get stunned down here. Panatom will pick up that one, and the rest of Sanguine turn their eyes towards Sino before turning them right on back to the Titan in 23 minutes. Sanguine, they'll take game 1.
Made it look pretty easy, too, especially Panatom on that Thor. I mean, it was a whole team effort, no doubt about it, but as soon as Panatom started landing multi-man dunks, freehand hammers, it was rights out for Obey Alliance.
Hey, wait, that's bonus, right? We got more than just the one rut-row. Now we're into rights out territory.
What are you
Pause
talking
up
about,
for
Dave?
that one. Give me.
I said lights out, okay?
Did you? All right.
Come on, man.
Look, I'll move on. How many little? I was gonna say give me 10, but I don't know how many little pads.
I only have one on right now. Hold on, let me get the other one for you.
Wait, they're
Here you
gloves?
go.
It's not a full like suit?
Well, it's like you got a little hinge here, you know, like you can kind of take it out. The one downside of this costume is that there isn't a pocket, but I discovered that I can just kind of drop my phone in the paw if I'm not using it. It's harder to do with the paw. Just go to break. I'll get it by the time we're back ready for the next one.
Quick break. We're going to split up, gang. We'll see you back for game 2.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to the SPL, and it seems like, well, the mystery, at least for Game 1, which in my mind was, which Panatom are we going to get? That one's been solved as well. Unmasked as, well, 6-0 and 9. He's absolutely going to have a blast there. Yarkor as well, and Mifflin, you'll appreciate this one coming in as, at least in my eyes, the Hokage. I believe that he can make it that far. Whether or not he will, we'll have to see. We'll follow his own training arc. So far, things have been going well. I guess Hokage, in this case, is going to be world champion. That's the only equivalent I can think of for SMITE that comes through. Sanguine, I mean, it looks close-ish for a little while, and then they just do it. They just win. It just kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah, just one or two misplayed team fights from Obey turn what was a pretty competitive match into a pretty one-sided one. And I think it does come down to exactly Yarkor, as you highlighted, the Hokage, showing us his Nindo, and that's being the art of creating infinite space for his team. My man was in the front line, and he never let up.
And you're going to see a lot of these ults that Shinto hit and just looked good doing, right? And it's not surprising. The man brings out Thoth and looks good on it as well. But there were a lot of ults we had even highlighted where he technically missed, but as you worded it, aimed properly, right? Where it's just, if you are going to retreat, you are going to have to walk through this searing pain. Otherwise, you have to stay in the fight. And I think that set up a lot of what we saw. Panatom, I have to give a lot of credit to because, in my eyes, there were a lot of fights that were going Obey's way, especially early on, that Panatom almost single-handedly decided, no, we're at least going even this time around. He also goes Undying, and so of course he's going to be the one that is at the tip of the tongue when we're talking about how Sanguine win.
Yeah, Panatom plays so well there. Hits 4 separate 3-man dunks. I got the pleasure of counting them down. And when you're playing Thor to that level, you're going to get so much impact no matter what. Even if he was slightly late to team fights, that Anvil of Dawn is so strong for repositioning you, and Panatom played around it so well. Shinto, as you already highlighted, if he wasn't hitting the snipes, was at least forcing Obey to take unopportune positions around these team fights. And it felt like from Obey in particular, there was a slight disjoint. Sometimes Ducky diving in deep, Sino as well, whereas Wolfie and Wowie were on the retreat or inbounds just trying to heal. We need to see Obey playing together if they want any shot to win against the Sanguine squad.
That's going to be changes, again, that they have to make going into game number 2. Sanguine, however, maybe looking to make today just as fast as it was yesterday. Maybe a little bit slower as things are coming around here. Yesterday, we were also getting into the 4th game around this time, and things were getting real close to an end. And so there's a decent chance if Sanguine can find the same style victory that we're just in for another fast SPL day. But of course, everyone always hoping for that 3-game set, mainly just because at this point I think we want more SMITE. We're kind of itching for it after yesterday. So Obey, a lot of pressure on them to come around. They also would like to not get 2-0'd, I think, for their last set of the phase. But that's neither here nor there. I guess that's actually right here, right now, because of the fact that it could potentially be that way. Hebo, Persephone, Cupid all banned away so far. Do you think Sanguine could just go for the same bans? I mean, the Athena maybe you don't have to go for, but at least Cupid and Nemesis.
Look, if I'm Sanguine, I don't feel the need to change anything. When a game's as fast as Game 1 was, that's pretty convincing. So you want to put the onus on Obey to shift up their own strategy, trying to address the bans as they will. And it seems like Obey are going to be the ones making the first pivot. They're going to go ahead and target out that Ra immediately. They weren't happy with how well Shinto was able to play around those team fights. But Sanguine, on the other hand, as you highlighted already, are going to ban out that Athena yet again. But it seems like Obey, still very confident in this Yamoja pick, as they should be. I think Bobby had a pretty decent game with his ultimates in Game 1. Might as well go back to it in Game 2.
I've been left behind in the dust because I'm still flabbergasted. I never thought I'd see the day. It's almost like a full circle thing that Obey are the ones now banning the Ra that Wolfie kind of heralded into the phase. I think it's well, just poetic, I guess, is the best way to word it, that comes through. But, we were talking about the Hokage himself, Yarkor, at the end of Game 1. Now we get to talk about him before we even get into Game 2. King Arthur, this seems like it's going to be a really good fit for Sanguine.
It will be, and it has been, right? Like, they are very adept at playing this pick, an absolute lane bully, and we see that he's able to rotate out a lane pretty consistently and make his impact known through mid, so I like it overall for him. And then matching it up with the Rom, once the Cupid has already been banned out, means that Obey is going to have to take 1 tier down on their Hunter, whereas Sanguine are coming out on top. But already we're seeing that Sanguine aren't too concerned with what Obey are banning. Normally when you have 3 targeted bans on one guy, you want to pick up your mid laner, and they still have the opportunity to do it in their top 3. But if they don't take another mid laner here, Sanguine that is, I think Obey would be very comfortable banning out 2 more.
That's then going to be playing the game of what else can Shinto play, which honestly I kind of want to play, so maybe I'm at least hoping they don't pick a mid laner here so we can see how far down the God pool it will have to go. They get the Jingwei back, they get the Osiris back. So far, the top 3 remaining the same here for Obey, but based on what we were saying coming into this, especially for the team that needed to make the changes, Obey were the ones that really needed to make at least some shifts. We'll have to see if that comes in the latter 2, because Merlin's now locked in for Sanguine. They make a nice pivot there in the mid lane. And again, if you look good on Ra, you're going to give him what I would argue is a signature god here for Shinto and the Merlin. This seems dangerous to be playing for Obey.
Yeah, if you're going to dedicate 3 bans to a dude and he still gets one of his best picks, Shinto on this Merlin, I don't think you're feeling too happy with it. But they are limiting ever so slightly a strategy that we saw from Sanguine in the last game, having Ra play so far in the backline and act as not only the objective confirm, but also kill confirm off CC. Merlin doesn't fit that role nearly as well. He makes up for it elsewhere, objective burn or even raw DPS off the back of CC. But it's going to be a different strategy from Sanguine in these team fights, and maybe that's all Obey wanted.
Well, they're going to come through, ban away the Horus overall, which is a little different, I think, is just the way to word it, right? Only Sanguine, I think, right now are a team that could warrant that ban. And we'll have to see where that ends up pivoting Wrong You to. Unless Yarkor is going to do something absolutely insane and play King Arthur support, but I don't think even the last week of Phase 2 is not crazy enough for that. At least not yet. We'll have to see tomorrow, which I think is going to be spicy. Instead, they're going to be pivoting to the Fafnir here, the Poseidon, the Aphrodite, all 5 of the bans here from Sanguine, pretty much the exact same.
And I wouldn't fault him on not changing anything else. But this Fafnir pick, again, leaning into Sanguine's ability to burn through these objectives. Now that additional DPS coming through from his buff, not only on one individual member, but if he goes into the Dragon, multiple, matched up with Merlin as well in that Fire Stance, Gold Furies are going to get eliminated almost instantly. But again, this is another smart pivot from Obey. Strip away from Panatom's God Pool, likely going to be going to Ducky inside that Soul Lane, helping him out in the 3v3 as well, having the Soul Laner be able to rotate out through the Anvil of Dawn. I like this for Obey.
Well, lo and behold, I didn't think we'd see literally any other team do it. Those 3 games played that you see at the bottom of your screen, all 3 of them were Ghosts. 2 wins, 1 loss here for this Anubis. He's even been banned by Sanguine before, but up against Ghost Gaming when they were picking it up, and that gives the pick of the litter for the junglers over there to Panatom. Grabs the Serket. I'm going to go ahead and throw this one to you. How's Serket fare against the Anubis, the Jingwei, and the Osiris here?
She's got an interesting matchup in that if Anubis does decide to use the Death Gaze, Serket can hop on his back, and one of the main strengths of Anubis is his ability to stick around in these team fights through lifesteal, immediately removed by Serket on her own. And if she wants to, she can invade him very easily. She's one of the most mobile, if not the most mobile assassin in the game, and she could just stick away from Anubis if that's the game plan, or Anubis being so immobile himself, she can close the gap without any issues. I think it's a smart pickup, especially matched up with the Rom, having him be able to finish off those kills from a range.
Well, we saw how good that Thor looked. Serket is going to have to do a lot of work to stay the same in terms of what she can bring in game number 2. But Sanguine looking to close it out quick. Obey looking to hang on. We'll see if they can do it here in game 2.
I mean, it was a back and forth early game there for Obey and Sanguine, and then one big fight around that Fire Giant ends up rolling things over for Sanguine. 23 minutes is the win. Still Dolson, I guess technically I'm Fred. Still Aggro, who's technically Scooby. Still Doug, though, on the camera for game number 2. And Aggro, a big pivot here for Obey Alliance, whose composition stays somewhat similar. Is Wolfie now trying out the Ghost strategy, putting Anubis there in the mid lane?
And doing so with Blink as the first relic up against someone like a Serket, who locks you down pretty well if you don't have purification beads. It's risky here for Obey, but I've said it a lot when I talk about Twig playing it for Ghost. I think the pick is legitimately pretty good. He's got really good wave pressure. His damage output is second to none. You just got to stand still to do it. If you get far enough ahead, especially, that becomes less of an issue. You just kind of turn and burn with just about anybody. I've got no problem with the pick here for Wolfie.
No, I agree. It's kind of the same issue that, like, Mulan will run into with her ultimate, is you end up rooting yourself for a little bit of time. So if you were able to capitalize on that, if you're the enemy team, you'll be happier off for it. Though this time you're fighting into a massive outpouring of damage, so maybe slightly different this time around. Wrong You actually is going to use his active here, try to slow down Wowie, does so. Wowie will live with about half of his HP, a double knockup on the back end. It's Fafnir for the Wrong You this time around instead of the Horus. So still some kill potential early, as we're seeing inbound very low here. Maybe not quite as much as you had when you had the Horus, who could have dashed away and saved some life there as well.
Good identification by Obey. They didn't really need to panic. There wasn't a whole lot of gas left in the tank for Sanguine, and Wrong-You ends up taking a lot of his HP bar.
Ow.
Shell still intact for inbound. It's a good position to be in if you're Obey's duo lane. Don't have to worry about a character like Yamoja being She regens that Omi really quickly, so that's not too much of a concern. And Wowie is back to full HP and still has 2 health pots to show for it. So that earlier pressure put on by Metroid and Wrong-You didn't really amount to much besides Wowie's beads being on cooldown. Panatom's on the way to see if he can punish that cooldown more than anything else.
Panatom lurking. I think there's just one ward over there by the Harpies. Yep, that'll spot out Panatom. So Obey Alliance will back themselves away and stay alive here. Over in the solo lane, actually good that we take over here. This is kind of an interesting matchup, isn't it? Where Yarkor obviously is going to want to be building up pressure through some lane bullying and then be able to rotate on out into some fights because of that. But then Ducky kind of has, I mean, it's not really a get out of jail free card, but kind of a free rotation card, and he can even return some good poke as well. This Thor can match and maybe even outdo some of the lane pressure that the King Arthur brings.
And this has been a great pick for Ducky in Phase 2. It's been a key part of some big Obey Alliance wins and some of their best showings. So putting Ducky back on it not only is a power pick for him, but also just to take it out of Panatom's hands after the game one that he had. Definitely a good look for Obey. They've just got tons of CC with their team composition now, and those fans who have watched a lot of my casts in particular know that the more CC, pretty much the better. I don't know if there's such a thing as too much crowd control on one draft. It just becomes so much harder to play against with every single hard CC that puts pressure on your beads. I love high CC compositions, and Obey has a pretty good one here.
Oh man, Wolfie will nearly completely kill off Panatom, the dash away and the leap, and Panatom survives. Obey Alliance were 3-man strong on the collapse there, but Panatom will live. One set of beads burnt. That's Shinto out of the mid lane. Only 2 sets of beads picked up, given the conversation we had around how much CC Obey Alliance have. That is somewhat interesting, maybe. But I think Obey, realizing that they have a strong presence in this early, looking for an invade.
Look, Sanguine's not exactly CC light themselves, so you're in a pretty good position, I think, if you're Sanguine to punish the only 1 beads pickup from Obey here early on, especially now that Wolfie's used that ultimate. That is his only form of CC immunity and his only way to really stand tall and take out someone like Panatom before Panatom can take him out in return. Interesting that Panatom's gone for the tank boots in this game, though. Really still relying on a lot of the base damage built into Serket's kit. No longer true damage on the ultimate. Has a scaling component on it at the very least. It's true damage with a scaling component, so you end up needing to build physical power if you want it to be as impactful as it used to be. But with the tank boots, you get a lot more CCR, you get a ton of protections on both ends. I think tank boots are probably on the end of overtuned, if anything. I think they're that strong. So I don't really have a problem with Panatom going for it here if he thinks he can get the damage off, or that he can rely on Shinto or Metroid to do the damage for him.
Especially not with in a god whose builds we've seen somewhat trend in that direction anyway. I mean, you pointed out, but we've seen Serket kind of build into some of that hybrid tanky slash damage anyway, so it definitely makes some sense early on here for Panatom. Fallen 1 level behind, though. Maybe a little bit less than that in total, half level maybe, over towards Sino, who's reached level 6 early on here. Sino, I think, probably didn't have the impact he was hoping for in game number 1. I mean, Panatom almost immediately upon reaching level 5 was able to swing those Thor ultimates and turn some ganks in his team's favor. It's always going to be difficult to keep up with that sort of pressure on this Osiris, but now a chance to keep up with the Serket. Panatom will work his way in. Wolfie has to use his blink defensively this time. He'll stay alive, but Sino, as I bring his name up, will maybe be able to turn something around into Panatom, who gets locked on the wall, but confirm the red buff and back away.
Like the idea, and if you can just get that blink away from Wolfie, horrific emblem, where does he go?
Wolfie right back through the Riptide from inbound, but Shinto from range has enough damage, a double kill. Oh no, that's worst case scenario. This guy on Merlin is just too good, but look at the fight happening on to the left. Wowie picks one up on a Netroid as Sino's kind of left the red buff skirmish and created one of his own here on the left-hand side of the map, and Netroid does end up going down. But the big story here is now Shinto with a double kill. Could still be a chase on, and Sino will actually leap in here. He's done half of Shinto's damage. Ducky will rotate over from solo as well. Panatom doing his best to lock him in, and Ducky will follow up the double tap in onto Shinto. And look at the chase on the back end from Obey, grabbing a couple kills.
I don't know why Shinto turned back around. I thought he was out. Wrongyu kind of in a similar boat. I don't think he was going to survive, but still ends up getting caught by Ducky's rotation. And what has Yarkor gotten for this time that Ducky has really swung the game back in Obey's favor nearly single-handedly? Not a whole lot. a slight level advantage, a little bit of extra XP that Ducky didn't have access to, but buffs weren't up for Obey on that side of the map at the time, so Ducky timed his rotation perfectly.
Yep.
And throws Obey's hat not only back in the ring, but in the lead on the back end of that Gold Fury they got.
I think that's, some of what I was looking at over in solo lane earlier. I mean, if you're going to potentially just get bullied in fights by an Arthur, grab yourself a Thor if you're Ducky. We already know you like the pick anyway, but then you can do stuff like that and join a fight while Yarkor's still in mid. Ducky is there brawling with the rest of his team. Now 2-0 for him. I was worried about Shinto being 2-0. And still something, maybe a small cause for concern. He's gone Divine Ruin early, so a little penetration for him. And then some anti-heal to deal with this Anubis who's gone Pythags piece first. But Ducky as well now, Aggro. I mean, he's got himself a couple of kills, and that sometime is a death sentence in its own right as well. This Thor now feeling a little extra powerful.
Definitely is feeling a lot better, but Yarkor, because he gets that extra farm, is not feeling that much worse for wear. The guy I'm most concerned for is Wolfie. We've already seen how easy it is for Sanguine to all-in him. This Horrific Emblem pickup from Rongyu is so smart, because if you hit Horrific onto an Anubis with no beads, he's just dead. Like, I just don't see a world where he's able to get away from Panatom or Shinto's damage once he gets Horrific, unless Inbound is there to shuttle him away with Riptides. That's kind of the only way I can see Wolfie end up surviving in any sort of situation where Rongyu's able to get onto him.
Well, now it's Panatom who's on Wolfie. Here you go. There, perfect example of some damage. Wolfie extends his own life a little bit longer thanks to the ultimate and some healing. Sino is in on follow-up. Rongyu low here, drops the Horrific Emblem, transforms. I don't think we'll have the ability to get out, and Inbound will pick up the kill there. So, while Obey do get a kill, it's on to Rongyu, and the Inbound is the one who picks it up.
Definitely not a horrible position for Sanguine. Every time you can set this Anubis a little bit further behind, because these kills matter a little bit more than they look like, because they're keeping Wolfie from hitting level 12 where he can pick up beads. Once he gets beads, he's in a much better position. Maybe with that kill, we get an opportunity to kill him again before he hits 12, which would mean that it would take him even longer to hit 12, which would mean Shinto's already substantial lead could continue to grow.
Oh man, Panatom just took so much damage from Ducky on the hammer throw, and I'm not sure can participate in the rest of the fight. Yarkor, without the headband this time around, is able to save his jungler's life nonetheless. Blue buff will get confirmed in the back end by Panatom. Yarkor wants a little bit more. Look at Rongyu rotating in by the Fire Giant pit, but a good wall from Ducky will slow down any re-engage. So Panatom is at least able to stick around, get some extra golden XP. Rongyu on a bit of an island, but should be okay to get out alive.
Don't think that without the wrap at the very least, you've got the kill potential onto this Fafnir, and the tank boots are coming out in force here for Sanguine, largely because of this Anubis and the CC that not only he brings, but that all of Obey Alliance have.
Inbound will rip Tide away from Rongyu, who had jumped on into mid. Could have been a hammer that set up for a small fight there. We gave a bit of a shout out to Inbound for his build there in game one, and we really enjoyed it. A bit of a different look here, Aggro. The Traveler shoes into the hide of the Urchin on this Yamoja, so he's going to be trying to brawl with his team early, build up some of those stacks. What do we think about this pickup?
Pretty common to see Urchin first overall for Yamoja, because she cares about mana, getting an extra Omi crystal for herself. There's enough mana on Urchin to get you there. She's got the tank boots as well to withstand some of that actual CC coming from Sanguine, just like we've covered for Obey Alliance on the other end. So you've got a pretty solid build here. Lots of protections for Inbound even early. Might need some extra health later on in the build. That's definitely the weakness of this build so far, is it doesn't have that HP.
Wolfie gets sent right back into Shinto. There's the lockdown we expect from Panatom, and now Shinto has his third of the game. Spear of the Magus now completed. So building into some of that penetration on this Merlin, don't see much Merlin outside of maybe Shinto and one or two other guys here in the SPL. Shinto seems to make it work more times than not. I'll pause, just see what happens here with Inbound. The stun will get used and Rongyu will back away. But that's a good example there, Aggro, of there's some lockdown from the rest of your team. Just a couple items in, and Shinto can effectively delete any backliner.
I think it's a pretty good reason why we pretty much only see Shinto on this pick these days. That's it. I just don't think Merlin is that good. I just don't think he does anything super well these days. Objectives is still his main area of expertise, but you got gods like Ra no matter what's the point.
I mean, what do you do? I don't know what you do if you're inbound. I mean, you just get melted down by Shinto. Fire stance. You don't often see that either. And Metroid, of course, cleanup crew on the back end will hit his snipes. But so much damage being brought in by Shinto right now. Ducky top of the charts, but Shinto right there behind him. It could be the first Fury of the set being looked at by Sanguine, and Obey Alliance won't be in range to answer. Small brawl still happening down with Wowie here. It's just Yarkor chasing him in. That's the rotation. Despite a win in game 1 for Sanguine, that's really the first time we've seen them successfully group and kind of take down a Fury as a squad.
Doesn't take them that long to do it between a Fafnir and a Merlin. As I was saying, I think that Merlin, he still does objectives pretty well, but in comparison to like Ra, who for my money is the strongest mage right now, he definitely can't match that objective damage that he brings to the whole team with the power buff of Solar Blessing and that actual confirm, which Merlin has never had. His early game is still so weak that I just don't know if it's really worth picking him.
Oh man, Wolfie just cannot get away from any of this. This time, Yarkor looks like he's going for inbound, but then instead ults Wolfie on the back end of the fight. So inbound stays alive, but now Wolfie 0-4 on this Anubis. This is where some of the shortcomings of this pick can get exposed. Ghost has only made it work 2 out of 3 times, and now looking a little bit slow here for Obey Alliance. Sanguine really starting to snowball this game. We are 14 minutes in. They're about 5,000 gold almost in the lead here in this one. And everything just seems like it's going to start feeling worse here, especially with the Shinto. Could be a Soul Reaver that he's building into here. You think he's chunking now, just give him a few minutes. And you know, you should think you have consistent dive to get to him from Obey, but they haven't been able to find him here just yet. Maybe it's Sino who can get something done. He's effectively 2v1ing here on a Netroid, who will take to the skies on some snipes. Sino nearly dies for it. The last auto attack from range won't be there, but Wowie will airstrike up and over. Panatom in on some peel as well. Wowie, he'll get nothing except death for this attempted fight. Ducky will have to wall and stun to get away from Shinto, but the flicker could gap close. Not quick enough though, and it looks like Obey Alliance will stay alive, and now it's Shinto who's maybe overextended.
Really good re-blink in from Wolfie, and that's why you pick up the blink there, Dave. Good looks from Wolfie. Probably could have gotten in the blink at 12 because the first time that it gets a kill is at level 13. And he actually died a lot before he hit level 12 because he didn't have beads. But it's fine. That's why we get blink. And it's because you get both relics out of the mid laner and then you kill him. Nicely done.
Yeah, fair enough. Good there for Wolfie. Now gets his first kill on the board. And it's a lockdown onto Shinto. Very important there. Look at this grouping, though, from Sanguine. I wonder how long they'll wait here for Wowie to get back from base. Poor guy just respawns, and now Rongyu is going to jump in, drop the horrific emblem, pulled back in by Panatom. Easy as you like for Sanguine. Now there's a tier 2 tower and left on the menu.
Really like the horrific emblem pickup on Fafnir because you have CC, but it's not exactly easily guaranteed. Sometimes you end up missing the hammer, max range, you know, single target, all that kind of stuff. Horrific Emblem is basically like adding more CC to your kit instantly, and it's worked out pretty well for him.
Sino looking for Shinto in the mid. Shinto very close to at least turning around one there, so Sino will survive. Obey Alliance tried to answer what Sanguine just did, but shoved it down mid, and we're at least able to find one killer. River's Rebuke from inbound will only slow down Yarkor, who's able to walk right around the sides. Panatom has picked up another. Yeah, Rutro. There you go, aggro. Netroid with some snipes. Helps out in nearly getting a kill onto Ducky. All that for a kill onto Shinto, and Obey Alliance have still lost one more.
Sino is back after nearly dying to Shinto. And the worst part there for Shinto is that he knew that everyone was there. It got pinged out, and he still ended up dying to it. Gotta just walk over to duo, my guy. Gotta take the long way around when there's a hazard in the jungle coming out of the mid lane, but thought he was going to get a little bit more help than he was. They still end up getting at least one on the back end, but that was a pretty avoidable death there for Shinto. Also, what happened, dude? Sanguine's up 7K?
I said
Since
what?
when?
It was 2K at 14 minutes, right? I think that's what I said.
Yeah.
Let me look at our little timer there. Yeah, right in between the 12 and the 17. Yeah, we're right in the 3-4K territory. I don't know,
Man.
massive spike downward there.
These Scooby snacks really hit here, Dave. I got them around 12 minutes. They're cinnamon. Did you know they're made with whole grain? That's pretty good.
Are they? You know, that's important for dogs, right? Or is it not grain? Is it not grain? Wait, which one is it? What have I been feeding my
I don't
dog?
think you want to give them. Well, no, they can have grains. That's like it's like a common filler in dog food, right? Is grain.
Well,
I don't
actually,
know.
it's a top. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure either. Either way, it'll taste good for you. Cinnamon, grain or not, Scooby snacks always seem to be hitting the Mystery Inc. crew.
Look,
right.
man, I needed. Look, I watched Wolfie die for the 4th time, and I just needed a Scooby snack. Okay.
Yeah, he needs some Scooby snacks too. Unfortunately, it's not like spinach for Popeye, where suddenly like you're transformed into an unstoppable force like Yarkor is right now. He'll die, but he stays alive a bit longer than Obey Alliance had bargained for. Could have maybe been a sneaky FG call there with a couple members, the carries of Sanguine over by that Fury. Ducky is looking maybe for an ultimate here, but enough separation outside of just Wrong You from Sanguine to avoid the engage. 5-man collapse from Obey. Wolfie looking for the wrap onto Wrong You. Horrific Emblem gets dropped. Now Wrong You is transformed. Panatom into the back line, and Wolfie's ultimate will not find a kill. Instead, it's Shinto. Free damage onto the mid laner. Easy as you like for Sanguine now. River's Rebuke crashes down, and Inbound has to retreat. Sanguine have bought their time. Added a kill as well. The dash on in from Panatom will slow down the back, and he hits it. The bleed might just get it done here, but Inbound able to stay alive. Shinto won't get the kill, but Obey Alliance still on the back foot.
Man, that is the worst feeling. Panatom makes this sick play, perfectly chases it down, a two-man Cobra's Kiss, which is just the best feeling when you're playing Serket. And then he whiffs the ambush in order to get the killing blow onto Inbound, and Inbound lives. And now we go from getting a cool highlight to it's not going to be saved anywhere. We're all going to feel bad about it. Unlucky there for Panatom, but still a great game for him. 3-0 and okay, yeah, here, I'll have a Scooby snack for him. 3-0 and 6. There's another good performance from him.
Wait, you legit
the
have
jungle.
Scooby snacks?
Yeah, I actually legit have a Scooby
Wait,
snack
that hasn't
right
been
here.
a part of our bit all day, and you've had Scooby snacks the whole time?
No, Joe just went to Target and got them. So
Oh, really?
we were a little late. Yeah, we were a little late on it. But I got an emergency airdrop Scooby snacks in the middle of this game. Listen, man, she heard us talking about how Wolfie went blink at level 1. She was like, "You're gonna need these ASAP." Tossed them in.
Hey, well, look, we still have one, at least one. That's barring an Obey Alliance comeback here. Post-game segment where we can show off the Scooby snacks a little bit. Sanguine up almost 9K gold. That 7K seems like a blue
Bobby,
moon ago. Wolfie nearly dies here. Sino will jump in onto Metroid. You can at least get that one if you're Ducky, who now has to back away from the rest of the fight. Wowie looking for a landing spot, and it's right in the back line with Panatom. Will Wowie survive? No, he won't. Wrong, you will leap in, complete the kill there. Now Wolfie thinks he's in a decent spot to return some damage. Inbound lives again. But instead it's a double kill for Wrongyu, who works his way in. Now the support for Sanguine getting in the kill feed. Shinto unable to turn around the damage, but Panatom there is Sino wrapped around the backside and adds another for Obey.
3 for 2. I mean, with Obey down by as much as they are, taking nearly even trades isn't the worst thing in the world for them. They just have to be able to spread out afterwards and absorb some of this farm on the map. That's the real key. But taking the carries out for Sanguine means that they can't exactly do Fire Giant with just a Serket, a Fafnir, and a King Arthur. It's not exactly DPS central on that objective. So at least, the very least, Obey's target selection was good. Knowing that Metroid had no relics, they focused him out nicely.
And Shinto, I mean, far and away top damage here in this game, but Obey Alliance have at least been able to slow him down in some of these fights. If I'm finding a silver lining here, I mean, 5 and 4 could have been a lot worse with the way this game started, especially with how good this guy is on this pick. Adds a little burst on the back end of his build with the Soul Gem there as well. Obey Alliance, I mean, aggro, if they're willing to step up and fight in moments like that, I was going to say they're going to feel good about defending the FG, but they want to fight around it instead. A Ducky will take to the sky. It's a frenzy popped on the back line. Ducky dunks down onto Metroid, but no stun is there. Rongyu and Yarkor playing separator. Ducky left alone, so is Rongyu as well. Shinto has rejoined the fray. Riptide right on through, saves Ducky's life for the time being, and it's a big old spin from Yarkor to chunk down some damage. Sanguine still looking for the re-engage, but Obey Alliance will make their way away.
Great stun from Rongyu, and Shinto's putting out some solid damage, but can Sanguine close the gap?
Oh, nearly do. And how many times is this guy gonna live with a sliver of health? Well, whatever it is, tally one more to that column as Sanguine now turn their eyes over towards the Fire Giant. Inbound has to leave, Ducky has to as well, and Sanguine do this quick enough that outside of a steal, which could be from Sino, and it won't be. Sino instead will go in, maybe falls on the back end of this fight now. Wolfie blinks in, but won't grab the kill. Sanguine 5 strong with the FG.
You know, I just realized Anubis is a dog. I should be like rooting for the dog this one. That should be the bit, right? But
Right, we're all dog fans around here.
well,
Like
no, because I'm
UGA,
Scooby-Doo,
puppies.
the
Right.
dog.
Oh, got it. Right. I forget that you're not constantly wearing dog costumes. Big difference maker here in this one. Yeah, maybe, right, at least not on broadcast. Wolfie has to heal himself up, but Yarkor sees him right over towards the Oracles. My God, look at the damage from King Arthur. This is just going to get worse. A double kill for Yarkor. He's going to chase down onto inbound to now. Ducky, big stun in the back. He's there with Sino as well. And now Obey Alliance have picked one up onto Metroid, and Sino is likely able to get out alive here. Panatom leaps in, Sino turns course, and Panatom rampaging as the Osiris takes a seat.
I don't know what Obey saw to make them think that that was going to be a good fight for them. Maybe it was in color, because I, as a dog, Scooby-Doo, by the way, only see in black and white. But that seemed pretty clear to me that that was not going to be a great fight for Obey Alliance chasing down Sanguine. They may have been a little bit low coming off the Fire Giant, but that was some time ago, and Fire Giant regen doesn't mess around.
Here's a good metric on how much damage Panatom's build can still do. Yeah, there's a little hybrid in the mid there. Tank boots, sledge, you know, some extra tankiness built in as well, but still almost able to completely kill inbound all on his own. Shinto will round the corner to burn him down at the end. We have now reached 24 minutes, so a little bit longer in this one for Sanguine, but somewhat staggered out now, Obey. These fights could pay off big time for Sanguine if they could win them cleanly. Luckily, Wolfie is able to dispel the engagement from Sanguine, and Sanguine will have to take a breather.
Good damage coming from that Death Gaze, and that's enough to force back Sanguine for the time being. Remember, they still need to back after Fire Giant. They did that how long ago? They must have a lot of golden hand right now. Yeah, over 2K for nearly everybody. Only Metroid, who ended up dying, had a chance to spend before that. These are going to be full builds pretty much here for Sanguine.
Staff of Mirrodin, yeah, baby, on Shinto. I like that. Get me some extra burst on the back end of one of your mid-fight transformations. I mean, this guy is going to be swinging here at the end of some of these. I think Obey Alliance, though, as lopsided as this game may has felt, Ryan, Obey, with Ducky and with Sino, have been able to find Shinto and Metroid on a basis that, not necessarily saying is game-changing just yet, but will make the backliners think twice about their positioning, thanks to, you know, some of the CC built into those kits that we've talked about early on here. Panatom avoids the damage, but Sino sure can't. There's a 1v1 for you. Ducky, the unfair 2v1 turns around. Ramsey's loving it, and Ducky will trade out for the 1-for-1.
Yeah, at least something goes Obey's way, that Panatom still ends up dying, and with how valuable he's been, that's only his first death. That's a big one to get. Sino still has to be on the bench for 30 plus. Don't know if Sanguine's going to be able to get a Phoenix in that time. They don't really have waves crashing right now, so I think Sino should be up in time before this Phoenix is really in danger.
There's another bit of value that a Merlin can bring you, the ability to send some damage over those walls. Rongyu transforms here. Drops Coerce on a Metroid and Shinto. Sanguine start to work their way in. Rongyu is taking so much damage here, but look at the double stun from Yarkor on the backline. Wolfie immediately deleted. Yarkor could just get this fight done all on his own. Rongyu, Shinto, and Metroid, they're back and healing up, working down onto the Phoenix, while Yarkor is working away at the Obey Alliance front line and back line. He's going to get another in this fight. Suddenly this King Arthur has come alive. Sanguine, 4 members strong. Panatom rejoining from base. Now is the time if you're Obey. Ducky dunks on in, finds a stun onto Metroid. The follow-up damage from Wowie is there, but Sino's the one who ends up picking up the kill. The chase is on now as the Osiris tries to work down another kill or two.
But Yarkor still going strong. That's
my
2
God!
more for him, and he's going to find Sino as well. Might not be wearing the Hidden Leaf headband anymore, but he's cutting them down like Uchihas. Right, Dave?
Yeah, baby! That's what I'm talking about. Lucia's, my favorite restaurant. Hit me up with some of that Italian food. Yeah, baby. Mid lane. Phoenix down for Sanguine. I swear I know what you're talking about, Aggro. I promise.
Of course you do.
Sanguine, 27 minutes in. We're going to work on in onto the Titan here. Wolfie back on in from base. Gets the kill onto Yarkor, but inbound is alive, and I think Sanguine have to think twice, and they will indeed disengage.
Unlucky. I thought I was going to be able to start eating more Scooby snacks right there. It looked like Sanguine was going to be able to end, but Wolfie does just enough in order to prevent that from happening. Yarkor without teleport and that low on HP, Fire Giant falling off him a while ago. Makes sense that he's not able to withstand that Titan and the Anubis for much longer, but duo side and mid Phoenix is down. That's a pretty tough task now for Obey to come back from here. They've really got to try and abuse the fact that Sanguine has low relics right now, particularly for Metroid and for Panatom. I think if you're Obey, you just kind of go for it on this FG. You hope that you can stall Sanguine long enough to make sure it's enhanced so that it's even harder for them to get, and then you let the FG do some of the work for you because you need the help.
Wow, they don't even want to fight around the FG. Obey Alliance might be trying to fight right now. Shinto with the beads will sidestep the stun from Ducky, who has to disengage. Took half of his health instead. Now it's inbound, popping the frenzy, but Shinto, of course, he's going to kite Yon backwards. Wowie airstrike over, but now he's in the middle of all of Sanguine. A double kill for Shinto. He's got Sino, he's got Wowie, and Aggro. Sanguine, I think, could walk down the mid lane and might just take the Titan.
Yeah, what was that about enhanced FG? Yeah, we don't need any of that. That's not going to be necessary here. Inbound gets CC'd, has the Riptide, but can't imagine he's finding a way out of this.
That's a leap on over from Wrong You, who actually might die to Wolfie. The damage just shy, but it sure isn't from Sanguine. Shinto has gotten all 3 of the kills on all 3 dead Obey Alliance members. Ducky survives in the end, and it's inbound here as well. I'm not sure they have the damage to keep this one at bay. Wrong You is going to be there to play separator. Shinto finds a 4th. Wrong You finds the deicide, and Sanguine, they'll find the 2-0.
Look, Sanguine, Dave, I'm going to be honest with you. Tomorrow, I think we might have some sets that go a little bit differently than a lot of the SPL we've seen up until this point. Sanguine can't help but pick good gods. Like, they just don't have it in them to pick bad gods, I don't think. So it doesn't surprise me that they came in with a locked-in game plan. It doesn't surprise me that they were walking away with a 2-0 victory.
Can we see those Scooby snacks now?
Yeah, they're right here. And I tried to look up like a Scooby snack compilation of how he eats them, but I think they kind of just toss them to him. I don't really have anyone to toss it here to me.
Quick,
and it's really hard to get them with the paws.
Sure, understandable.
I can,
what flavor are they? You said cinnamon?
Yeah, cinnamon. And they're whole grain.
Whole grain, which is definitely good for humans wearing dog costumes. Jury's still out, I suppose, on dogs, whether or not. Not sure. We'll take a break, though, after Sanguine get themselves a fantastic set win here, 2-0 over Obey. We'll be right back, though, to break it down.
Well, it happens anyway. A really solid third-place finish here for Sanguine as they take the 2-0 over Obey. And Mifflin, it comes back to pretty much the exact same story as Game 1. A pretty close, I want to say, tight-knit fights between them and Obey early on. And then Sanguine just pull ahead, and eventually they get themselves a win. Takes a little bit longer this time around, but Yarkor gets some insane moments there outside the base when it happens. They almost seemed like they were going to finish, about 4 minutes before they truly did. A lot of good play just from Sanguine altogether.
There were. It felt to me like Sanguine was really savoring the win this time around. They didn't want to close it out early. They wanted to farm some extra kills. That's why they essentially held the Titan to make sure that they could get out Sino one more time. But it comes down to exactly what Aggro said. Sanguine can't help it. They just play better picks. They lock in the Merlin. They still have the King Arthur. They're all trying their absolute best. And when they're doing so well up against Obey, who's going for a bit more of an unorthodox style, Wolfie locking in this Anubis, inbound still trying to hone in on this Yamoja. I mean, we saw the results. Pretty convincing if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, you give them what I would argue are some signature picks for everybody, and I saw, 7-2, 7-1, Shinto with a double digits in the kills. They just look good when they play it, and, I mean, we always joke about it, but I don't know that there are many people out there that play more Smite than Sanguine. Like, these guys, you can guarantee they're finishing up this set, right? They're going to come through. We've got the post-game interview, and then they're going to, I guess, eat dinner. It's about that time here. And then they're going to start queuing up again. Maybe they'll watch a movie or a show or something in between just to give them a little break. But, I mean, these guys are always playing the game outside of scrims, and so I do think it's something that we get to see often with them. And, of course, if they have these good picks, they're going to keep going back to them.
And they sure will. And there's certainly some picks that we're going to expect to see from them at playoffs. I mean, you can't dedicate 3 bans to Shinto and him still somehow lock in a pick that we so closely associate with them and feel good about it. He locks in the Merlin. And I'm sure even if they had banned 2 more people, he would have had another one in that back pocket. It just feels like Sanguine has a stranglehold on whatever's in the SS tier on the Reddit tier list. If it's high up there, they could play it at a high level.
And it's just, I mean, this is the moment, actually, right? This is perfectly timed to come up because I had not much to go into. Just Yarkor looking good on King Arthur. I think that was when he goes into the base, is able to just change everything for themselves. I think between him, Panatom having some really good moments, and Shinto looking really solid, everything seemed to go well and just kind of line up for them. Pretty much exactly how you'd want to end out the phase. A 2-0 here for Sanguine. And, well, hey, we can figure out how they're feeling as they go into it. They got a couple weeks before playoffs. We've got Shinto right now to talk about it.
That's right, Shinto is with me. First of all, congrats, Shinto. This one, quick win for you guys. Oh my god. Why you gotta do that to me? I nearly jumped out. I gotta maintain some semblance of professionalism. You're gonna scare me like that? Who all is who back there? We got
all
the bunny around it now. All the boys.
Hey, hello.
I nearly fell backwards out of my chair. You nearly got me. My dog is staring at me, wondering what the hell is going on there. But big win, big scare for you guys there at the end. I want to start off Merlin pick for you in Game 2 there, Shinto. You're one of the guys in this league that loves this pick, and admittedly, there are only a handful of other mid laners that tend to go towards him. Why do you love this pick so much, and why does he seem to work for you guys?
First of all, hello to all the beautiful people and gorgeous people from the SMITE chat. I don't know, I think I like Merlin a lot because in my team they give you a lot of farm to me and a lot of item. So Merlin is really good of that because if you have a lot of item with Merlin, you can frag easy to all the people. So yeah, I think it fits really well on me. Nah, I'm totally mad to Aggro because he say Merlin is bad. So we need to talk about that later.
Hey, for what it's worth, after you got a double kill early in that game, I was like, man, this one suddenly starts to feel over because I know what you can do with a couple of kills on the Merlin. You guys win 4 out of your last 5 games here in this phase of the SPL. Do you think that your team is starting to hit your stride at the right time, moving into playoffs and placements and all that sort of stuff in the future?
Yeah, we're preparing a lot. We're playing a lot of smites, a lot of scrims. We're trying to improve a lot to worlds and playoffs to be prepared and to win for sure.
What do you think? I mean, you guys obviously finished phase 1 in the first place spot and move into phase 1 playoffs. You finish in third here. I mean, this team's first year now complete in the SPL. You finished top 3 in both phases. It's obviously got to feel good for you guys. Is that a point of pride for you guys and really everyone representing Sanguine?
Yeah, I feel amazing. I feel amazing to be in the top spot in the first phase, first place, and second phase, third place. But yeah, we are not done yet. We are here to win worlds and prove where we can win whatever team if we play our style and our game.
Yep. Oh, your game is very hard to match if possible there, Shinto. Final thoughts from you. What's the game plan for you guys? You got kind of an off week, I say. We don't necessarily have any broadcasts next week, but then we'll have playoffs soon after that. Is it just bear down and grind some Smite and get ready to go?
Yeah, still grinding for walls and for playoff and prepare, scream a lot, play a lot of Smite, yeah, continue grinding and continue improve.
Had a feeling that would be the answer. Shinto, congrats on the 2-0 over Obey. Can't wait to see what you guys are able to do in the tournament structures here moving forward. That's it for our broadcast here today. We'll go back to Daphne to take us home.
Well, we knew that Obey was going to be happy for Halloween based on all the decorations they've had in the back. I like that they start that interview with a nice little bit of a scare that comes through. I was kind of curious. We went over there, and I was like, man, it's really dark over there, Shinto. Like, it's 6:30. I could see still some sunlight outside. I know that it can't be the end of the world. Glad to see them feeling good here at the end of the phase. But like they said, Mifflin, it's still grind on as time goes on, and time does go on. We only have 2 sets left of this phase. Tomorrow, Knights, Renegades, SSG, and E United, and then November 13th through the 15th, you'll be seeing these teams, well, the top 6 teams go up in the playoffs, and that is where things have mattered. We had mentioned it yesterday in the waiting room, but all of these now have been decided. The matches have finished that have been able to shift people around. Ghost, SSG, Sanguine, Radiance Knights, and the Renegades all going to the playoffs there November 13th through 15th. United, Obey, we'll have to wait a little while before we get to see them again.
We will, but you know, when they come back, it's going to be in a big way, Gore. We got to talk about this upswing from United, the growing pains of Baskin. Obey, obviously, going to have to get that redemption arc rolling as we come into the Worlds phase. But I think that there's still going to be some fun games coming. We've seen already throughout the week that some of these teams are getting a little bit eccentric with their picks as these seedings have been locked in. I think tomorrow's going to be no different, and I'm excited to see how the PK boys and SSG decide to mess around a little bit.
My money is on Venenu locking in Opwash tomorrow. I'm going all out for it. I want it to happen. I'm hoping it happens. If it's not him, somebody else, please do it for me. We still got a little bit of chance. And you know, I guess I kind of misspoke. United still have that 1 set to play tomorrow to give us a nice hurrah for the end of the phase. But Mifflin, I mean, we're literally 1 day away from the end of phase 2. It feels like simultaneously like it's been forever and simultaneously that it has been no time at all. It has been awesome being able to sit down and watch it. But you still looking forward to those 2 games tomorrow?
Well, of course, it's the SPL, Gore. I'm going to be there, even if I wasn't paid to be there. I would love to do it. And you know what? We're going to give up on the beard now. We'll go full neck beard to end this broadcast. Dude, I'm pumped, and I think everyone should be.
Well, you took off the beard. I don't know if I can believe you anymore. I know you can't see without that. I heard what you said earlier. Either way, thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. Tomorrow, 3 p.m., we'll be coming back for that. Otherwise, stay tuned. Keep your eyes on Twitter for more info involving the playoffs. And we're done for today. We'll see you tomorrow.
Peach it.